Hello, everyone. My name is Angela Cummins. I am here today with the fabulous Phil Davies, who is joining me from my former home all the way across the world in the glorious Hong Kong. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Hello, lovely. I'm very well indeed. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. It's good to see you. Although obviously people aren't seeing our faces, they're only hearing our voices. It is fantastic to see you, darling. Really, really good. Phil, I've known Phil for quite some time now. I'm not going to work out how long. I worked with Phil at a beautiful place called the Sanctuary in Hong Kong. We were kind of connected through lots of different people and eventually met each other. And I was able to do my work at this beautiful, amazing sanctuary space that Phil created at the time. Absolutely beautiful. It was just what I was asking and praying for at the time. It was the best place I've ever worked, to be fair. Phil is an amazing healer. I will let Phil talk a little bit more about what he does, but I would describe Phil as an amazing healer. I know that he and I have worked together on clients before with amazing results, which was just mind-blowing. But yeah, Phil, how would you describe yourself? What would you want to say to people in terms of what your role in healing and such is?
That's a really good question, because I just don't have a clue.
I love it.
It changes from day to day. Obviously, I have several different modalities that are under my belt, but even before I'd sort of gone into different types of organised healing, I'd already sort of started to be aware of healing energies and being able to have that connection in order just to help people to really connect with themselves and to just help to hold the space to facilitate that self healing within other people. So although when I'm working with people, it can change from person to person. At the very core of it, really, for me, what healing is about is getting people to reconnect with their self, with their true essence of the self, and understanding that all the healing happens within.
Awesome. Yeah. And from conversations that you and I have had in the past,
yes,
you were quite young when you kind of started understanding all of this or experiencing this, right?
Yes, I was about 14 years old.
That must have been pretty scary for a 14-year-old lad.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was first sort of experiencing it, it was really sort of feeling energy in and around the body and the movement of that energy. That in itself wasn't scary, because for a long time I'd been doing martial arts, and so hearing the instructors talking about ki or chi, which would be the Chinese version, so that was what I was trying to muster anyway, and so that part wasn't scary, because that's what I was my way through it and thinking that this is the right thing. There were some spooky bits that happened sort of like later in meditation, with like faces rushing up out of nowhere and weird things like that. But yeah, that in itself wasn't scary. Just my lack of understanding was what created the.
I suppose you mentioned there about holding space for people, and I suppose all of your martial arts training was holding space for you to get into this energy work, right?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it that way, really. Yeah, yeah. I trained. I trained for so many years, and with lots of different styles, and yeah, some of the people that train me, they looking back, then themselves were actually struggling and not the most mentally stable in the world. And I think even within that, and sort of just holding space for them too was a lesson in it. Anyway, it's something I hadn't thought about in that way, and I haven't thought about some of my old instructors for a long time, and the role that they played and how they played their role. Of course, they played it perfectly, but unknowingly.
Right. I love it when you look back and you see how things have kind of lined up to get you to where you are today, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of your healing abilities, I have always been amazed by I would say it's a gift. I know we all have different gifts, different abilities in different ways, but I've always been amazed by what you can tune into, what you can understand, how you can help people. It just blows me away. I would like for people that are listening, obviously the reason that I'm doing these podcasts is really just to kind of, with everything that's going on in the world, there's a lot of people that are, worrying and panicking, and I'm just wanting to do these podcasts to help people kind of day to day. And obviously, being that I am quite a spiritual bunny myself, I'm taking obviously quite a spiritual angle. And for me, it is all about connecting with yourself. It is all about that. And I know you do a lot of meditation. You do a lot of guided meditations. You meditate yourself a lot. And I know you've had lots of, I know about lots of messages, but I do know about certain messages that you've been receiving through meditation. For people that have never meditated before,
right,
how would you describe meditation, and why would you say people need to try it?
Oh, okay. So, I mean, that's quite an involved question, because there's different types of meditation, really, because we choose to either be present and just be the observer, or that we can go into meditations where we're moving in and looking at ourselves and our ego, or where we're expanding and connecting with our superego, or our super consciousness, or sort of our divine self, and beyond there. So it's difficult for to sort of really put it onto sort of, I can't even remember the question was now. Sorry.
You're all right, sweetheart. I'm basically wanting to get across to people that have never meditated. Meditation is something that's okay. It's something that's something really strange. Like, why would they meditate? What would the benefits be? How do you meditate? And it's interesting that you're saying there's lots of different types of meditation. I guess I've always known that. I've never thought of it in those terms.
Yeah, that is. So I guess it just depends on what you want to achieve from meditation. So for me personally, I guess all meditation, if it sort of benefits from it, would be the fact that it helps you to de-stress. It lowers blood pressure. It allows you to be able to have more concentration as you sort of begin to calm the monkey mind. You're able to see things a lot more clearly that's happening in your life. So instead of you being stuck in sort of in the midst of everything, that you tend to be able to start to see the larger picture. And I think the more that we're able to sit and just observe, or just to be more present, that we're able to be more aware of ourselves, and be able to shift into a space of being able to see the roles that we're playing within within our relationships, and so and that's within our relationship with ourselves, and within relationships with everybody that we come into to play with, and start taking responsibility for our role. So it really starts to empower you. So instead of always being a victim and thinking that, or thinking that, that the world's conspiring against us, or if this, that, and that, and then everything would have been great, you start to see that really that we have responsibility for everything that's happening for us. And there's and there's something that's really quite magical about that when you get into that space, when you realise that that you hold the responsibility for absolutely everything within your reality, because it puts you in the driving seat, doesn't it? It allows you to have the power at that point in time. You then choose to see the reality as you want to. Is it sort of okay, this is happening because my behaviour is X, Y, and Z. If I change that, then I can form a brand new reality, and people do, and will. Or do you sit there and going, oh, this is terrible because they didn't do that, they didn't do this, and just really end up sort of not having a true understanding of yourself, or being able to sort of have any real fulfillment in life, because you're pointing the finger at everybody else instead of taking responsibility and taking the action that you need to be. Amazing.
Yeah, I think anyway, on all of my little discovering. No, you're good. I want you to do that. Don't you worry. You go off on your tangents. I love it. I have a little tagline on all of my Discovering Awesome posts that basically say, empower yourself. Now's your time to feel awesome. Yes. And it's funny because I think society, life trains us into that victim mode. I always say that, we're always looking for somebody to blame. If kids are having a fight in the playground, the first thing the teacher does when she pulls them apart is say, who started it? We live in that kind of blame society. So somebody that's never really realized that there's another way to be, it seems a little daunting to take responsibility. That sounds like it's a bit of a task, but it's actually really liberating, isn't it? It's really empowering.
Yeah, it's actually the easier route.
Yeah.
and it doesn't seem like it is, but once you sort of take responsibility for yourself, then it means that you're in the driving seat, that you can change everything that's happening. Whereas when it's everybody else's issue, then you can't do anything until they change.
Yeah.
And you might be waiting a really, really long time for them to.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I love that when we do make that switch, when we do stop blaming everybody, we kind of let everyone off the hook, right? We kind of sever those, I don't know, those ties that kind of, I don't know, it's just so liberating. It's like freeing yourself from shackles when you stop blaming people for, if I say you're the reason I feel the way that I feel, then what power do I have? I don't have any at all, do I?
No. And as long as you believe that, you're never going to feel any better.
Yeah. I was doing some work with a client of mine recently, and bless her, she has had a lot of things, she's a lot of bad news, regardless of everything that's going on in the crazy planet right now. She's had a lot of other things going on, and she was a bit like, why me? I'm a good person. Why am I suffering? And I was like, you're choosing to suffer. Pain's inevitable. I think it's a Buddhist saying, isn't it? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. It's how we process, how we take things. And if we are very much in that kind of victim mentality, then we do feel like the world's against us, rather than taking our power back and realizing that actually the world's conspiring for us, really.
Yeah.
So meditation's really important so that we can really kind of see the bigger picture. So it for me, when you were describing it before, Phil, I had a very visual image in my mind, and I saw people kind of like not being able to see the wood for the trees because they're so embroiled in it. And that meditation kind of takes them away from that and gives them that big picture overview so they can see things for how they are rather than how they feel.
Yes. Over time, if if you're sitting and you're just you're sitting and just sitting as the observer, so everything that's happening with you sort of physically, emotionally and mentally while you're sat within that meditation, and it can just be for sort of like 6, 8, 10 minutes a day, and you just train yourself that you're just observing what's happening. You're not getting involved with it emotionally or mentally. You're just observing what's happening, and things start to unravel, and then that sort of that moving inner of observing everything that's happening on the inner happens on the outer. So then you start to be more of an observer in your day-to-day life. So when things are going crazy around you, instead of reacting to it, you're able to observe it and allow it to happen, or take the necessary action to preserve your own sanity or your own well-being. But just with coming more from a place of ease and grace, as opposed to running around with your hands over your head screaming.
Yeah, I keep saying to people, be the lighthouse. You know, all this craziness is going on around them, all the fear, all everything that's going on around. Like you don't have to be swept up with that. You can be the lighthouse. You can still stand there, proud and strong and shine, and you don't have to buy into all of it, right?
Yeah. I think it's. You know yourself that sort of that we have some of these different sort of. We have some of these fears and some of these emotions that are sort of programmed into us as far as our own survival is concerned. Like being scared of lions and things like that. And so it does have some uses, but for what's going on with us at the moment. That's not one of the uses for them. I think with sort of the virus itself and the quarantining and all the other things, I think it's. I guess for some people it is scary, but if you're sensible and you're doing, you're making sure that your hygiene's good, and you're not really getting too, you're not touching your face a lot. We have a lot of things going on with masks here in Asia, which I know that in the UK that they've been saying that they don't really do anything, but if you have a look at how our curve was and our infection rate was compared to other places, you can see that they must be doing something somewhere. And if nothing, it stops you from touching your face a lot. So I think really just trying to be mindful of your situation, and it's all that you can do with it. Fear is definitely not going to make it go away any quicker, and it's definitely not going to cure you if you have it. I think that obviously this we don't have to be in a state of indifference, because that's not going to help. But as we talked about earlier, of sort of just moving into that place of responsibility, of being responsible for yourself, and responsible for the people that may be around you that you could be affecting. Yeah. Really. So it's really difficult. It's really a really difficult thing, talking about the whole fear that surrounds us stuff with this with COVID at the moment, because I'm sure for lots of people it is a very, very scary time. But being scared of it's not going to change the situation, really.
And being scared of it's kind of a choice, right? You know, you think about it on a bigger picture. Nobody's saying you must be scared, feel that fear. It's a choice, and I don't think people realise that they have a choice to feel different ways. It's kind of like they're just swept up in the momentum of whatever is going on around them.
Yeah, my mum's 85, and she's isolating because
she's in the UK, just to clarify, right, Phil?
She's in the UK, yeah. And she's isolating because she's in a high risk group, but she's as well as doing gardening, she's just been binge watching feel good things on Netflix. She hasn't watched any news. She doesn't know anything that's happening. She doesn't want to know anything that's happening. She doesn't know the scale of the infections in the UK. She doesn't know the scale of the death. She knows that Boris is in intensive care because I think I told her. But she's
out now.
She doesn't know anything.
You can tell her.
Yeah, and she's not scared, and she's not worried about it, because she's not all consumed by it. She's just, she's pottering around the weather's turned. It got a bit nicer. She's pottering around the garden. She's watching some feel-good Korean dramas on Netflix.
Nice.
And good. Oh, sorry. That's some advertising call coming in. Sorry.
So I agree with you, Mother.
So it is a choice.
Yeah.
It's going on all the way around her, but she's not looking at anything. She's not buying into it, and she's happy in her own little world.
Yeah.
She sees all of us nearly every day. She probably sees more of me now than she has.
And that's one of the lovely things that's going on, isn't it, with people with this, even though there is a momentum of fear that's trying to sweep people away, that obviously we have the choice whether or not we jump into that craziness or not. There are some beautiful things going on because of this. This is like a really amazing time where we kind of get back to the nature of who we really are, because we're not involved in paying the bills and paying the rent and having to do this and go there and all the rest of it. We're actually, a lot of us that are, have got this extra time on our hands, are able to really figure out what's important.
Yeah, it's true. And you've got loads of kids all around the world that are enjoying spending all this time with their parents. I'm not 100% sure the parents are enjoying spending all the time.
I think they have a new appreciation for teachers. I think that's for sure. There's a lot more appreciation going on, really. I really feel that, appreciation is obviously one of the most beautiful ways we can increase our energy, our vibration, isn't it? Like focusing on what we do feel grateful for. I think, the kids, the pets are all loving it. They're all like, yay, human adults around more. Yay, awesome. I was in the park the other day, and this little girl, 2-year-old, ran up to give my dogs cuddles and pull their tails, and she came up and she was like, yay, give you a hug as well, and it's like, you can't say, get away from me, child. I mean, there was no skin to skin contact, and I stepped away gracefully. But it's like for a lot of people, this is just great. And the sun's shining, right? So don't get that in Blighty all that often. We've got a gorgeous weekend going on.
Yeah, and that's been some of the amazing things. So some of the pictures from around the world. So like sort of the before and afters of sort of in Delhi and places like that, where it's sort of clear blue skies and stuff. And here in, I mean, you know yourself, here in Hong Kong, the pollution can be terrible, and we probably get clear days during Golden Week when all the factories in China are closed and you can get to see to the other side of the harbour clearly. But everything's been shut down since before Chinese New Year, and every day it's just the visibility is it's yeah, it really is a sight to behold. So that's one of the things to be thankful for. I think it would be interesting that we've had so many world leaders that have been hospitalised during this. I wonder if it's going to sort of help their appreciation of what the doctors and nurses do.
It's true, you know, there's been a lot of celebrities. I don't think you would know about this, Phil. I don't think this is your world, but there's been a lot of celebrities whinging from their, you know, their multi-million-dollar mansions with all their land and swimming pools and tennis courts. And I think, you know, the people that are stuck in flats that don't have gardens, or the people that, you know, are totally quarantined, are looking at these people with new eyes now, going, "What the hell are you whinging about? You know, shut up." And I think you've realised now that the people that are paid the massive salaries, whether they're footballers or Hollywood actors or whatever, they aren't the heroes. They aren't the people we look up to. Right now, it's the people that are working in the food delivery system. You know, we're realising that they're the important people, the health professionals, you know, shout out to all of them, especially the unsung heroes, the care workers that are working so hard as well. You know, there's so many people that I think everyone's realising, wait a minute, why are we putting you on a pedestal when you're crying from your mansion saying it's really difficult and you're feeling anxiety? We don't care.
Yeah.
What's
it is true. I can't remember. I can't remember who it was. Was it a biochemist or somebody? And they asked why they hadn't found a cure yet, and she said something along the lines of, because I can't remember what it was, and she said, because I only get paid sort of like X amount a year to do it.
So therefore, she's not going to find a cure because you're not being paid enough.
No, I can't. No, I'm getting it wrong. There was some sort of. I think was it some. Oh, I can't remember. But she. Oh, I forgot what it was. I'm sorry, but it was something about a footballer, some like Ronaldinho or whatever. Somebody who's paid millions and millions. And she said, well, I only get paid this amount. Why don't you ask this footballer to sort it out, because he's paid million. I can't remember. It was good what she said. I just ruined it completely.
Right. Yeah. So obviously we're doing these talks. I'm doing these conversations with all of these wonderful people that I feel are very spiritual and have a lot to offer, and you know, kind of our guiding light, our lighthouses to look up to. If you were to tell somebody to start meditating, I mean, I know there's, you know, that's obviously one way of kind of trying to feel calmer and better and everything. And there's all sorts of different types of meditation, as you kind of touched on before. But for somebody that's never meditated in their life, what would you suggest they try today?
Right. So I would suggest that they just find somewhere comfortable to sit, somewhere where they won't be disturbed. And I understand with the way things are that might be difficult. I used to sit in circle with a woman that had several children and several dogs, and her house was an absolute madhouse, and she used to meditate on the toilet. The only place where
she locked herself in the cupboard under the stairs, right?
She locked herself in the toilet. It was the only time she got any peace, and she would sit on the loo and try and do like four minute meditation.
No excuse, right? If she's got loads of kids and loads of dogs in a crazy house, if she can do it, so can we.
Yes. So just find somewhere comfortable and sit in in a nice relaxed position. I would, if you're new to meditating, I would recommend doing it in the morning, not long after you've woken up, because then you should be rested, and there would be less chance of you falling to sleep, because what we want to do is meditate, not sleep. And then just really observe the breath. So all that you would do is you sit there and just observe what happens when you breathe in through your nose, and what happens when you breathe out. And it doesn't matter what what you experience with it. You just don't give any judgment. You're just observing, and that's the key to it, is of being the observer. And so while you're doing that, there's a chance that your body will start to play tricks on you, because there'll be part of you that's going, hang on a second.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Alien thing.
Yeah. And suddenly you'll have muscles start to twitch. Maybe you'll want to sneeze, you want to cough, or your nose that's been perfect for all day will just suddenly start to drip and things like that. And so sort of and itches and things. So twitches and itches, just try and ignore them if you feel like you've got a cough. But just observe what's happening. You might get some crazy thoughts that come into your head, or just even mundane thoughts that come into your head. You just don't follow them. Just observe them. You know, if you start thinking about something that happened the other day where you had an argument or a disagreement with somebody, don't start to follow it and then put emotion into it and replay it. You just observe it. If you find that you have followed it, you just go, well, I followed that. I'm just going to return back to observing. Don't give yourself a hard time for it. You just, all you're doing is observing that you followed it, and go back to being the observer. And that's really it. It sounds pretty easy, and it is. It's also extremely difficult.
It's like a new muscle, isn't it? It's like if you started to learn a new skill that use the muscle that you'd never used before. It's going to take a while before you give that muscle that strength, right, to do what it needs to do. And it's a similar kind of thing. Obviously, everyone's an amateur when they first start, right? No one's going to sit down to meditate and then find the answers to the universe in that first second, right? It's going to be a case of...
Well, I actually did. But it's exactly right. It's like learning to play a musical instrument. You don't go out and buy a piano and then start like or whatever without sheet music.
Start with chopsticks, right?
It takes time. You put the time into it, but just do that. 5 minutes a day is all that you need. If you have and you can build up over time with it. If you find instead of setting an alarm, if you find a piece of music that runs for about 5 minutes, and then when that music stops, you just take yourself out of meditation, and then... That
sounds nicer than the abrupt alarm coming in when you might be off somewhere. Yeah,
it is, and not for the want of plugging, but I actually do have a set of meditations that I already have that are in 5, 8, 10, 15, 20-minute slots, and all I'm doing is just reminding people just to be the observer in there.
I love your meditations. I know I used to go to some of your meditations in Hong Kong. I always found the benefit. If you have those available, obviously I'll get the information from you and I'll put it below.
Yes.
So people can access that, because I for one certainly can recommend your guided meditations for sure.
Yeah, there are some, but I have some that aren't guided. That all that they're doing is just helping you stay in just being the observer, and then telling you when the time's up.
So people can obviously see what you've got going on and see what they're drawn to, and have a little play with it. Okay, cool. And I know obviously we mentioned fear quite a few times. And I know obviously you are a fantastic EFT practitioner, emotional freedom technique practitioner. I know obviously that's one of the modalities that seems to be talked more and more about in the world in terms of helping people to get over fear.
Yes.
And you're able to provide services online with EFT, is that right, Phil?
Yes, I do. I do. It's something that lends itself quite nicely to online work, because the majority of it, it's tapping on acupuncture points. The most of them are on the face, so it's quite clear to see as you're as you're on Skype or Zoom or in
one of the million different ways, yeah.
You're using, and you're doing the work yourself. The practitioner is just sort of guiding you through it and holding the space, and also listening to what you say in order to sort of guide you in and through the trauma, and look at different angles of it to sort of help you to sort of shift it, because we tend to be really good at hiding stuff from stuff from ourselves. So it's good to sit and work with other practitioners, so they can get in there and help you find it and move it.
So I do think that in terms of obviously what people can do day to day to help themselves feel better, obviously, now's the time to try meditation, to give yourself a goal of doing it for 5 minutes every morning for a week, see how you go with it. And I also think it's a time to get that bigger picture, rather than being stuck in it, not being able to see the wood for the trees, to get that different perspective, to understand what fear is, to understand that, we have these choices. We don't have to be swept up. We can be that lighthouse. We can stand in our own love and power.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because I think the majority of fear, I think having that feeling of being powerless, or having your options limited, and not having a full understanding of who we are and what we're actually capable of, is something that lends more to being in a state of fear. I think when you're in a space where you're more at peace with yourself, and have that more awareness of self, and again, it's really coming back to sort of knowing that everything that's happening to you in and around you, that it starts and stops with you because of how you're perceiving the events. Really getting in touch with that essence of self helps to remove fear, not just about what's happening right now, but just remove fear in
general.
In general, yeah. And I think it's, with people having to isolate so much, and there's people that really are spending so much time alone. It really is a great opportunity, and it does have to go a little bit beyond meditation. Meditation's a great start, but we also have to start to listen to our own inner dialogue, really, and look at how we're treating ourselves, and whether or not we're being true to ourselves, or whether or not we're betraying ourselves. So typically, being true to ourselves would be that we have a good, open, loving, and supporting relationship with us, and betraying ourselves, it would be obviously the opposite. And the only way that you find that is by taking time to stop and listen to that inner dialogue, listen to how you're treating yourself, and then taking the time to rectify that, to correct it, and I guess it's just really down to start treating yourself how you would have others treat you, or look at how you treat the people around you that you love, and hopefully you treat them well, and and giving yourself that same treatment, that same love, that same respect, forgiveness, and acceptance that you would give to others, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. That's what I say, it's like no matter who you are, no matter whose child you are, whose partner you are, whose friend you are, there's only one person you're going to be with the whole of your life. And you might as well get on with that person pretty well, right? You might as well support and encourage and love and accept that person.
Yeah.
Than be at war with that person.
Yeah.
And that time to self-reflect, to realize, hey, I'm not perfect. None of us are. Where do I need to, I'm noticing that I'm getting frustrated quicker, I'm getting angry, what is it that I can unravel within myself? How can I see this big picture rather than, on the little detail that I'm looking at, so that I can make a shift and make a change there?
Yeah. And I think having that time, of being the observer and shifting into a space of conscious awareness of how you're treating yourself and your relationship with yourself shifts things really, really quickly. Because it's saying, if a child feels that they're not loved and they're not protected, then they'll be insecure and fearful. And that's the same as yourself and how you treat yourself. If you're not really sort of taking good care of yourself on all levels, and not really being loving, then you're going to feel insecure. You're going to feel more and more fearful, and I think that's something that's also quite important for helping with the situation. Just finding that love and presence for self.
I think it was our lovely mutual friend Shu. She posted something a little while ago, and it's like, you can eat all the kale you want, but if you're telling yourself you're a horrible person, that kale ain't going to do you much good. We need to do it on all levels, right? Not just what we eat, what we drink, what we say to ourselves, what we think, what we believe. Obviously, we need to look at our physical, our emotional, our spiritual selves and love all of it, right? And when we make those shifts, it's like the magic happens, right? I mean, the interesting thing is there's a lot of people at the moment who might be fearful, who are not wanting to be fearful, that want to embrace this, that want to step into this. And once they kind of get a handle on this, once they're on that journey, it's like the light just lights up, the path just lights up, doesn't it? All these amazing synchronicities happen. I mean, I remember where I was working for before the sanctuary even existed, and I wasn't too happy there. And I thought everywhere that in Hong Kong that I knew of all these different places, that they were all pretty much the same, different person at the helm, but pretty much the same politics, same craziness. And I was like, I don't care. I still want what I want. I want my utopia. And at the time you were meditating and being told to create the sanctuary, and it was exactly everything that I wanted. If I'd said, oh, well, I know reality is this is the way it's going to be, what's the point of me trying to find anything else? You and I would never have met. We wouldn't have been able to do all the amazing work we did together. I wouldn't have had that platform to reach all those people.
Yeah. And incredibly, there were also clients that were doing that. One of the clients had found a photo of what are the boards that they use for a dream board? Are they called? A vision board, and she'd been sorting through photos, and she got a vision board where she wanted to find a place where she could sort of meditate and learn, and it would be the sanctuary. And it was sort of the picture was taken sort of like about 8 months before we'd opened or something, and she was just like, I swear you only had that place because I brought it into life.
But that same, is that not, we don't understand these things. We can't see these things, but obviously we understand energy and vibration. And if we're all of kind of a higher level, that we're being our own best friend, we're not in the fearful state, or at least we're bringing ourselves back to that whenever we're carried off in the storm or whatever, when we're in that mindset, it's amazing how many similar people come together to conspire to help each other. You know, it is magical. It's the bit that we don't understand, and it is the awesomeness, and it is the magic, and it's there for us.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps.
They were amazing times. So, but yes, I think, yeah, it's while people are sort of confined to barracks, it's a great time to experiment with meditation and self-love and acceptance.
And one other thing I'd add into that as well that I found really, really important for people, you know, I was saying it to somebody the other day. It's like, you know, we think this concrete jungle that we live in, this house that we live in, this, you know, this world that we live in, we think this is normal and this is how it's been for forever. But, you know, we need to put our skin on the planet. We are, you know, we are organic beings that have lived, you know, in nature for far longer than we've lived in plastic and metal and concrete. And we need to really hug some trees. I know that sounds, you know, makes me off to be well, I am a proper tree hugger. I don't care. I'll admit it. But, you know, to really feel the energy from Mother Earth and connect with that, because we are part of Mother Earth. I think that's really important. And especially if you're somewhere where the weather's decent, if you are able to put your feet on the grass.
Yes. Yeah.
Sit on the grass, meditate on the grass even, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just walking in the countryside is just, it's just incredible. I mean, that's one of the harder things for people that are stuck in the city and can't get in their cars and drive to be able to get to beautiful countryside. I mean, I know people think of Hong Kong as a concrete jungle, but the majority of it's green, and it's quite easy.
Beautiful.
It's quite easy to get into the get surrounded by green.
Yeah, and so many lovely beaches there as well. Not that I'm jealous that I'm here and not there, Phil. Not at all. Well, darling, I'm gonna wrap things up. Otherwise, you and I'll talk for, like, you know, this podcast will be on for about 17 hours. I know what we're like. It doesn't feel like we've been talking for that long whatsoever at all, does it, darling? I thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. I love you so much. I'm so glad that we reconnected.
You too. I'm looking forward to catching up with you and when the airplanes are flying again.
Yeah, bring on the Guinness, right?
Yeah, I know. Miss our Guinness.
Well, keep in touch, sweetheart. It is so lovely as always to connect with you.
And thank you for putting these podcasts together. I mean, the more love and positivity that can be shared in these moments, the greater. And thank you.
Thank you, darling. I really appreciate it. And that is exactly why we're doing it. You know, even if we only reach a few people, I don't really care. If we reach 1 million people, so much the better. But really want to get everybody to feel better. If
you reach one and it changes their life, it's job done.
Well, yeah. And there's also a domino effect. If you feel better, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you feel better, you shining just gives other people permission to do the same as well. You're kind of breaking the cycle, aren't you? You know, if everyone around you panicking and you're standing like the lighthouse in the middle, you're giving other people permission to be the same as well. So yeah, darling, one person's enough, right? I'll talk to you soon, Phil. Thank you.